Hello, and welcome to the homestead. So, first off, let's move you guys back a little bit. That's better. So, we've been working our way up to David and his mighty men, starting with Abraham. So we did Abraham, Isaac, Joseph. Last week we did Jacob, Joseph's son, Abraham's great-grandson. And we left off with him being wrongfully imprisoned and, kidnapped, betrayed by his brothers, kidnapped, enslaved, and then wrongfully imprisoned. So we're going to pick up there. So while Joseph was in prison, and this isn't in my notes, I missed this one. So when Joseph is in prison, he does the same thing he does for Potiphar. He does what he's supposed to do. He still praises God and still follows God. And because of that, he is rewarded he's blessed. Man, the air conditioner just kicked on. Sorry if that background noise. You got the highways being really loud today. Neighbors' dogs are barking a lot. Fans going. Anyway, Joseph, he's in prison. He follows the teachings of God. He follows God with all of his heart to the best he can do. And he's blessed by that. And because of that, the other prisoners and the prison guards take notice, including the head guard. And he keeps getting promoted. And even though he's a prisoner, he's still in charge of the whole prison and runs the day-to-day operations. I don't know exactly what all that entails. After all, I've never been in an ancient Egyptian prison. But he's promoted. He's doing pretty good. And one day, he runs into the Pharaoh's former baker and cupbearer. And they both have dreams. Joseph interprets their dreams for them. And we're not going to go to all the details. We're just hitting the major points here. I recommend you go and read all the details. But anyway, Joseph interprets their dreams. He tells the cupbearer, this is the guy that he tastes the wine for the Pharaoh, make sure it's not poisoned, and he's in charge of all the wine. He tells him, hey, the Pharaoh is going to take you out of prison. He's going to lift you up and put you in a good position. And when he does, don't forget about me. Don't leave me stranded here, man. And then he tells the baker, like, sorry, dude, I got bad news. But the Pharaoh's planning on killing you. Well, the Pharaoh does kill the baker. And Ella brings the cupbearer back out of prison and puts him in charge, or puts him back into his position. Well, years go by. We don't know how long. Oh, hold on. So even at Joseph's lowest, he still follows God. He still does what he can, and he's blessed by it, and does the best he can. And even though he's in a physical prison, he's not locked up spiritually. He's still free spiritually, which I'd rather be free spiritually and free physically, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather be free spiritually. I recently heard, and I don't know how true this is, but Iran is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing Christian church on the planet. And even though they're oppressed, and if people find out that they're Christians, they'll be killed, Christianity is still thriving there and growing there. And in the United States, Christianity hasn't been growing. There's some signs it may be starting to be growing again, but why is it that when we have all this religious freedom, we're still act like we're oppressed and we still don't worship God the way we should? I don't have an answer for that. Anyway, so Joseph, he's in prison, tells the cupbearer about the dream, says, hey, don't forget about me. Well, the cupbearer forgets about him. He's like a goldfish. 15 seconds later, like Dory from Finding Nemo. He completely forgets about Joseph and the dream. Well, years later, or however long, the Bible's not very clear on it, Pharaoh has a troubling dream. And he's telling all of his wise men and all of his magicians and all that about his dream, and none of them can interpret it. Well, the cupbearer is like, hey, I know a guy who can interpret dreams. He's in prison. So they go get Joseph, clean him up, make him look nice, get him out of prison, take him to see the Pharaoh. And he interprets the dream for the Pharaoh. And Pharaoh basically has two dreams, but they have the same outcome. That there's going to be a time of plenty and then a time of famine, and they should use the time of plenty to get ready for the time of famine. And as a prepper and as a leader of my household, as a husband and father, I should use our resources wisely, and we should all use our resources wisely in order to plan. Use the good times we have now in order to plan for the bad times or anything that might come in the future, and like not make excuses for. I really need to figure out how to get this to work right. But anyway, not make excuses and say, "Oh, I didn't know." Like we have plenty of time and plenty of resources now because we're Americans to get ready. Even the poorest. When I was really poor, I mean, it took forever, but it was like one extra can of green beans this week, one extra can of corn next week, and slowly building up the preps. There's really no excuse to not at least make the attempt to try to improve your situation and prepare in case something bad happens. And that really paid off for me when my first wife, April, was in the hospital passing away. I could use our stored food and foods we had canned and stuff like that in order to spend more time with her before she passed away instead of having to find a job and work because I got laid off or fired at the same time. I'm not going to mention the company, but basically they fired me for taking too many FMLA days and taking care of my wife. Good riddance. Anyway, Pharaoh is like, hey, we need to put somebody wise in charge. So he puts the wisest man he knows. Not any of his wise men that is in his courts, not any of the magicians in his court. He puts Joseph in charge because Joseph's the only one who can interpret his dream. And the only reason Joseph can interpret his dream is because he's following God. So Joseph stores up food and stores plenty of food. And he spends 7 years storing up food. Well, then the famine hits. And we're not going to go into all the details of the famine. I'm going to make another video explaining some of the cool details of the famine and what we should know as preppers. Maybe I'll rearrange my live streaming schedule and I'll add that. That's what I'll do. Next week's live stream is going to be what preppers can learn from Joseph and the famine. Anyway, so Joseph's family, they're in desperate needs because of this famine. Well, they hear there's food in Egypt. So all but one of them, so there's 11, not including Joseph. So 10 come down to Joseph, and they buy grain. And again, we're not going to go into all these details, but Joseph asks them a bunch of questions, finds out about their father, finds out that they think they have a dead brother, and finds out that their other brother is still at home, and that's Joseph's full brother. So he really wants to see his full brother. He's happy that his brother's alive. And he's really happy that all of his other brothers are alive. So he sets up this elaborate scheme in order to get all of them back. And on the second trip, they all end up coming back. And that's when he reveals himself to them. And what Joseph is doing there is partially he wants to make sure his brothers have learned their lesson, actually grown up and become decent people, instead of the people that tried to kill him and sold him into slavery and lied to their father. So they all come back. Joseph reveals himself to them, tells them he forgives them, and that now that he's a high important person in Egypt, throw that over where we're going to burn a fire tomorrow. Now that he's an important person in Egypt, he wants them to come down and be with him so he can take care of them. And so he sends all of his brothers back, and he sends a bunch of carts and wagons and some other stuff with them. and extra food, so that way Joseph's dad, Jacob, and all of Jacob's brothers and sisters, all of their husbands, all their wives, all of his brothers' wives, all of their children, all the flocks, all the herds, all that stuff can come down to Egypt with them. And Joseph goes out of his way to take care of his family here. They've tried to murder him. They plotted to murder him. They sold him into slavery. All the bad things that have happened in his life are because of them. But even though they meant all this for evil, God meant it for good, and God used it to save the Hebrew families, save the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. He also used them to save a whole bunch of other people, all the Egyptians. And if Joseph's family is coming from Mesopotamia down, that means other people are probably coming from Mesopotamia as well to buy food from him. So he's saving a lot of people. And even though Joseph's family meant this for evil, God turned it around and made it good. So 2 lessons here that are really important is, one, God, he knows what he's doing. Trust him. Even when things seem bad, there may be a silver lining for us. And the other big lesson is Joseph goes out of his way to forgive his family when he didn't have to. He could have not given them food. He could have had them killed. I mean, he's the most powerful person in Egypt next to the Pharaoh. But instead, he forgives them and tries to build trust with them. And we'll see in a couple of weeks that Joseph's family, they're unsure of his forgiveness. And he reassures them. But at no point in time does Joseph ever hold a grudge against his family. He actually weeps with joy when he finds out that they're here and alive and doing well. That's something we all learn from, to forgive. And even though when people do us wrong, we should be joyful and happy when we find out that they're doing well. All right, so all of them come down. Jacob, Joseph's dad, meets Pharaoh. Joseph settles his family in the land of Canaan and takes care of them in the future. Jacob dies in Israel. Joseph has the priests cremate him in order so he can be brought back to the family tomb in the Mesopotamia area, where the tomb that Abraham bought for Sarah, that all the patriarchs and everybody's are buried in. They go up and have a funeral there. Joseph's, again, going out of his way to honor his family here. And it's really nice to see him do that. Joseph, by this time, has 2 sons. And his 2 sons become the 2 half-tribes. They're 1 tribe, but 2 half-tribes. And Jacob, before he dies, goes through and blesses. We're going to see that in 2 weeks. It's scheduled for next week, but we're going to bump that back. Joseph's scheduled for... we're going to go through and look at all the blessings and all the realistic stuff and prophecy that Jacob makes about his 12 sons. And some of them aren't so good because his kids aren't so good. And we're going to see there that each of the patriarchs of the 12 tribes set their family up for future generations on how they'll behave and what will happen to them. It's an important lesson to learn that we set no matter what's bad that's happened to us, we set the standard going forward for our family. We need to remember that. Anyway, that's in 2 weeks. Next week we're going to cover lessons for preppers from Joseph. So if you like this kind of prepping, homesteading, Bible study stuff, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Or you can follow me on Telegram. I just posted on Telegram about our quail we got. They're in the tractor. We're going to be moving those in a couple of days. We're also, you can see the corner here. This is the raised bed garden we're getting put in. Hopefully it'll be done by this weekend. It'll be framed up by this weekend. We'll be filling it, and that video will be coming out. We got an indoor seed starting thing that as soon as I'm done with this live stream, I'm going to go work on filming and recording the last bit of that. So if you like this kind of stuff, like I said, like, subscribe, you do the things. And follow me on Telegram. It's t.me/prepare to prosper. There's a link in the description at the bottom of the description. And remember, we prepare today so we can prosper tomorrow.